My name is Carlos Escobar. Nice to meet you. I'm one of the board of directors for Saved by Nature. Let me introduce my companion right here, Greg. Greg, you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've been managing this hill up until about a year ago when Connor took over for me.
How you guys doing?
I was executive director of the Silicon Valley Land Conservancy, which is now the Land Trust Santa Clara Valley. And see that fence line that runs up over here? So the Land Trust owns the rest of the hill on that side. And so I've been managing this hill. This is owned by PG&E, and County Parks owns the north part. But this is a really cool habitat. This is what's called a Serpentine Habitat. And today you're going to learn your ABCs. So you guys know the ABCs of Serpentine Grasslands? Who knows them? I started in this land preservation business in 1994 when I helped get the Open Space Authority proposition passed in Santa Clara County. So I served on the board of the Open Space Authority for 6 years as a board member, president for 3 years, and I currently volunteer with the Land Trust, Audubon Society. I'm on the board of Green Foothills. So let's head up the hill and get a little workout this morning.
I just smell y'all. It's been pretty good. Now what's really righteous about these California sage is that many native groups, specifically in this area, the Muwekma and the Tamian Ohlone, would use the medical properties of these California sages as a pain removal. Folks who use this make a tea, they will make it as a spice, they can even make bath teas out of it, and it's supposed to assist for those who have coughing, who suffer from rheumatism, and as well as pain from menstrual cramps and from birthing. Part of the reason why we're only seeing only this one particular plant is that as a way to outcompete its competitors, it injects chemicals into the soil that prevents other plants from competing against it and growing near it.
So this is a nice sample of serpentine rock. So you can see it's called serpentine for a lot of different reasons. So first question, anybody know what the state rock is in California? Take a guess. Serpentine, exactly, yeah. It covers about 1% of the state's landmass, but contains about 15% of the endangered and threatened plants because the plants have adapted to this poor soil. Anyway, it's a beautiful piece. It's relatively soft. It can be carved like soapstone, but it's got a lot of toxic things in it, arsenic, magnesium, all sorts of bad things for you. So we suggest you don't eat too much of this rock. It really does tend to upset your digestive system. So anyway, there's lots of this around. It's a gorgeous piece. You want it?
I just want to add one thing on top of it. Very interesting fact, blew my mind. So from the chemical process and composition of the rock, when it was being metamorphosized underneath in the sea floor, you have a lot of water that is oxidizing the magnesium, the silicon in there, which also has I think it's called hydrox. Oh man,
I can't say that word.
Oh man, yeah, there has to be a chemical engineer in here somewhere. just OH, but basically there's a lot of water content within this rock, and also a lot of free neutrons, free hydrogen to collect neutrons. So what people would do, for example, in Chernobyl, nuclear reactors were designed to have that specific design would have serpentine rocks mixed into the jackets as a radiation shield to protect the operators from the radiation from the nuclear reactor.
Didn't know that.
Right? All right, folks, so this is one of the largest vernal pools in this part. Specifically, it's called La Laguna Seca, or the dry lagoon. It is an ephemeral lake that comes in after the wet season, and has been noted and has been listed in the maps in the last 200 years, and is also potentially home to a whole variety of amphibians and frogs, and also for migratory birds to take advantage on their way down and up from their migratory route. So La Laguna Seca. Is there anything you want to add on top of that, Craig?
Well, the cool thing is a lot of people think that the water flows down towards Morgan Hill, but it flows from Morgan Hill north. And this is the lowest point of Coyote Valley. So in Coyote Valley, when the winter rains come, it all migrates here. And then this is a artesian structure, so the water comes up from the ground as it fills in down here. So the water table is very high on this end of the valley.
I have a question.
Yes.
I saw this like rock up here, and I wonder what it is.
That's super unique, to tell the truth. Take a gander at that. Yes. Where do you see it? Right there, folks. There is your California poppy, our state flowers. These magnificent little flowers can live in about anywhere, but specifically only in poor nutrient environments. With just serpentine rock and soil, it's perfect. What's super righteous about with the California poppy is that, like other poppies, they have the ability to reduce pain, inflammation. Specifically, you can think of it as like nature's Tylenol. Now, here's one thing though. When I mention that, unlike its other more notorious brethren and sisterin, the chemical structure of the chemical structure that does the pain relieving is non-addictive and was often used by naturalists and the Native Americans as a way to deal with their fevers, to handle with the pain. And we actually tried to make a tea out of it the other day. We actually have it. And could you describe how you feel after drinking the tea?
It was good. So what we did was we took the root, stem, and flower, and we soaked it in hot water for, I don't know, 5-8 minutes and just steeped it, and then slowly drank the tea. It's a very grassy tasting tea. It's not the best tasting tea. A little bit of like tingling in the mouth at first, but afterwards it really helps with anxiety actually. So a lot of people make it as a tincture or as a tea before bedtime, and it helps just calm the body, which also reduces inflammation and swelling, and it helped me sleep great. And like Carlos said, it's non-addictive, even though it's technically in the opium family.
Thank you, Maya.
The other good thing, it's also why you feel so good after you eat a poppy seed muffin. You know, because the poppy seeds in it. Come on, guys, just swallow it.
And another fact just to add on to it, and we can still keep walking, folks, is that the way these California poppies propagate is that they put all their seeds into this little pod, and right when it gets dry enough at the right moment, it shoots out like a grenade and shoots out the seed everywhere, and that's how they spread. On this hill, Coyote Ridge, and for the most part, all the hills and mountains going as far up as Oakland, down to the Antelope Valley by Lancaster, within Kern County. We call that the Diablo Range, and technically we are on the Diablo Range at this point. And both the Diablo Range and its sister, Santa Cruz Mountains, were formed around the same time during the Cenozoic period, approximately 26 million years ago, right after we had to say goodbye to T-Rex thanks to the asteroid. What was, just to further add to it, because I'm a total geek when it comes to geology, is that Santa Cruz Mountains mountains used to be islands where currently LA was at. And the last 60 million years, through the San Andreas Fault movement, was able to shift up to where it is currently. Well, this was all scraped up to the side, and best way to describe it, this was all scraped up to the side. You got a mound, and then you have the islands, which eventually became the Santa Cruz Mountains, come up. And what's very unique is over here, whereas this is all seafloor, Santa Cruz Mountains have good chunks of not only old ancient sand and sedimentary rock from the sand dunes and seas that used to reside against it, because recall it's an island, so it would have beaches, but there's also plenty of granite, which is only found in granite is only found in much older rocks that came directly from the mantle, and the only reason why we have granite up here at the Santa Cruz Mountain is because that rock came all the way down to the LA, while the Yosemite and the Cascade Mountains to our left were being formed. and just happened to separate and come into where it's at presently. Crikey, what we have here is Yarrow, or nature's band-aid. It is a native plant here in California. It typically grows in chaparral environments, as well as by near riparian environments as well. And what's super righteous, just like the namesake, its special low neck name, it's nature bandit. You get yourself a cut, you got some of that, you rub it in, acts as a disinfectant, and also helps with keeping from I think the word is coagulant. See all this gray stems right here? That's all the dead matter from the previous years, from the previous bloom. And even though it's a little delayed from the sounds of it, just this whole hill would be covered in what we see as buttercups, or not buttercups, cream cups, sorry, which are these cream color yellow flowers. Go ahead and get nice and close, folks. We also have in front of us some poppy spread around.
We saw our first bird, a lark sparrow. We just saw 2 of them. I did, because I'm a birder and I see things that you probably don't see. But it's a gorgeous little bird. It's a grassland specialist. And they just flew and landed right up the road, and then they took off. So anyway, and we did see the hummingbird earlier down there. I counted it too. So we've seen 5 species so far, birds.
Dahdaliyas are these tiny little succulents right here. Specifically, this one is right on the wall. You can see right there, he has some other brethren right behind me as well. So let me explain. Dahdaliyas. There are 46 species of dahdaliyas in North America. 26 of those are here in California specifically. We recall there are 10 that are endemic specifically in California. Now, what's righteous about these dahdaliyas is that they are built. They are the ultimate survivors, and where they can handle heat, drought, due to their succulent natures, having a very plasticky feel that is the cuticles in there prevents much of the water from escaping in it, and that's how it remains. Remains to look succulent, right? It has a light shade of white, which also helps reflect the water, and it's built specifically to grow on the serpentine rock and soils right here. This particular, let me look up the name. It's Dudleya. Thank you, Satelli. This one is specifically endemic here in Santa Clara Valley, and you can only find it here in the Coyote Ridge.
And it is federally endangered.
State and federal. This one is the golden-back fern. Take a gander at that. So these are also evolved to handle poor nutrient soils as well, just like the Dudleya. We're going to see a lot more as we continue to walk around in this area due to the serpentine soil. Look around, and you're probably going to find yourself a coffee berry, because this thing's going to save your butt, or your itchy butt specifically. But what native folks would use is use the coffee berry to help treat the dermatitis that occurs once you get in contact with poison oak. So, and the reason why they call it coffee berries, I think we're going to see some more up there which may have berries, crossing fingers. If not, no worries. Have you ever seen a coffee tree? The berries look just like it, red. It's going to come in like kind of black and purplish, but it very much looks like coffee beans. I know when I seen these the first time, my family's from the part of Mexico that they have plenty of, they grow coffee as their main crop. And I swear when I saw one of these, I was like, oh, is this coffee? And let me go ahead and buy it. I'll take a gander. Right here is the turkey pea. Right over here with this beautiful tiny little yellow flowers intermixed with poppy. And to its left, the fiddleneck plant. Just to kind of give a little bit more information in case y'all didn't hear, the fiddleneck grows really well on poor nutrient soil. They are toxic to livestock, so they typically do stay away from it. What's interesting though is that the Native Americans would use the flowers to incorporate it into their piñola cake, which is essentially grounded and dried seed, flowers, and other vegetation that they incorporate to their meal. What's cool about with these little guys is that typically are all color oriented, right? So let's go ahead and first figure it out. What color do you think?
It's more like a palish yellowish.
Palish yellowish. Okay.
More like kind of like that.
Around there. Yeah, you know, I would agree with that too. Let's see, what else can we identify it? It has, look how the flowers spread out, kind of like hands, you know, like all with our own fingers.
How many petals?
Oh, and let's count how many petals we have.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know.
6 actually. 6 petals. So let's see if we can find one.
This one has 6 flowers.
That one's 6, but this one's a little bit narrow leaves.
Oh.
So maybe not that one.
Where'd it go? I just saw it. Is that it?
This one, the candy flower? No, it's one too little. One too less. Big dog right here. Alright, so let's look for the whites. Do we see whites? Is this whites?
Yeah. There it is.
What? Can you name it to the camera what it is? Say it to the crowd who ain't here with us.
Mulia?
Yeah. Mulia.
Mulia.
There you go.
So I want to show you something interesting here. We're a little early on the wildflowers this year because of the lack of rains early. The whole flower season started much later. Normally by this time we'd be at peak flowers, but we're not. So I want you to look at these 3 little trees out here in front of us. You can see them as a mark, okay? And 4 years ago, this is the photograph that I took, and you can see those little trees in the background. The one in the middle is now gone. It's been knocked over by the cattle. And you can see that's what this looks like when you have peak flower season. So, unfortunately, we didn't quite catch it right today. Is located in southern part of San Jose, and it's the northern end of Coyote Valley, and this is going to become someday, some of you have heard of in San Francisco, they have this little place called Golden Gate Park, and it's kind of their big natural area. Well, someday this will be our Golden Gate Park as it becomes preserved. Right now there's about 1,200 acres has been purchased and preserved in perpetuity. But there will be a lot more. We got about another 6,000–7,000 acres to go. But 100 years from now, this will be on a par with Golden Gate Park. It'll be different because that's an urban park. This will be more of a rural agricultural park. So there's been a lot of folks involved over a number of years in seeing that this area be protected. And one of the main reasons is this is a wildlife linkage. So over here to my right, you have the Mount Hamilton Range. It's a mountain range, coastal foothills. And over to my left, you have the Santa Cruz Mountains. And what we're sitting on is Tulare Hill is the closest point where these 2 mountain ranges come together. And so what that means is that wildlife, whether it's birds, large mammals, mountain lions, coyotes, and bobcats, plants, insects, they tend to migrate here because to get from one mountain range to the other, it's only about less than a half a mile down below here. And that's a critical part. So this hill is very important. It's also a serpentine habitat. And serpentine is a unique type of soil or mineral. And it was initially on the bottom of the ocean, and through plate tectonics it was raised up. So what we're standing on now is the bottom of the ocean about 150 million years ago. Okay, because of that, it's very nutrient poor. So it's got a lot of arsenic and magnesium and other type of things that make it a very poor soil. So the state of California is about 1% serpentine in its landmass, but about 15% of the threatened and endangered native plants grow on that serpentine because they've adapted to that very poor soil. And so this is a little serpentine outcrop, about 350 acres, which is relatively small. But the reason it's being preserved is because of a little tiny insect called the bay checkerspot butterfly. So Coyote Ridge, the butterfly was discovered over there back in the late 80s, and it is what's called the core population. So, and then this is a satellite population, and we have other little hilltops that are serpentine that are what are called satellite populations. But for the bay checkerspot, there are anywhere on that ridge line in a given year. There's been about 32 years of research up there where they count them. And I'm not going into how they count them, but they do. And it's gone anywhere from about 100,000 on the low end up to over 2 million on the high end. You might say 2 million and it's a threatened species? Insect populations are not like mountain lions, okay? If there were 2 million mountain lions over there, that would be an issue, right? But 2 million butterflies, that's not such a big deal. The reason they're threatened, that's the only place they're found in the world, is here and on little satellite populations like this. So what happened a few years ago, let's say about 50, 70 years ago, something happened in California. We came, people poured into California, and we settled this area. And actually before that, the first settlers, the Spaniards that came here, the first Europeans that came here, brought in a lot of these grasses because the local grasses didn't have enough nutrients for the cattle. So they brought in a lot of these European grasses, and they have flourished and kind of taken over the area. But the good thing is these serpentine habitats like this, the grasses didn't grow up here because it's such poor soil, right? And so cattle weren't ever up here. But about, I'm going to say 70 years ago, grasses started growing up here. These non-native grasses, what's going on? Why are they growing? And then as it kept going, more and more grass kept growing up here. So the rancher said, hey, free grass. So they came up and started grazing this area. So the reason the grasses started growing is a chemical process called dry nitrogen deposition. What that means is air pollution. The exhaust from our cars, from our power plants, from the way we live, creates nitrous oxide, ammonia, other type of things in the air. And right here on this piece of property, for the last 50 years, it's been dumping 20 pounds of fertilizer per acre per year. And so these grasses are growing like mad up here. So the cattle are brought up and they graze the grass down, which allows the flowers to grow and keep the habitat not pristine, but viable. It's not exactly like it was 200 years ago before we got here, but at least it's viable, okay? And that's all that we can do. We can't do anything more than that. Now, if we ever get to the point where we're not using fossil fuels and not producing that emission, then those native grasses will probably die out up here and we won't have cattle. It's a possibility. So how do you remember that story? I'm going to teach you your ABCs, okay? So I thought I stepped in cow pie, sorry about that. A stands for what? Automobiles. So the automobile represents the lifestyle that we live and all the fossil fuels that we produce. So the A is for automobile. B is for, what would you think? It's a little thing that flies around. A butterfly, the bay checkerspot butterfly, and that's why this area is protected for that threatened species. C would be for cows. So we bring the cows, which I call 24-hour lawn mowers. We bring the cows up here and they graze it. And we do that because we're on what type of habitat? Serpentine. So that's your A, B, C, S. Automobiles, butterflies, cows on the serpentine. So now you all know your ABCs.
Great.
Cut.
Yeah. Hey, it's for the sake of education. Where's he at?
I see it.
Oh, I can't get him on the camera. Bummer. Somebody get a photo.
Oh, he turned.